Alright, in this next section we're going to talk about the office and the support that they play in order to get our sale and get it to installation where we get paid. And the first thing we want to discuss is the actual order form itself. You got the customer, you got the interest. We got to the point where we say, Mrs. Jones, what time works best for you, tomorrow morning or afternoon for installation? And she settles on the morning installation block. At that point we're going to pull out an order form from our clipboard. We're going to show that to you here. This is what the order form basically looks like. And basically on the very top right-hand corner of the order form you could see the toll-free number, 1-800-730-6629. This toll-free number is the number that you will call in from the customer's home after this order form is completed in order to process it and qualify it and get it on the installation schedule. In the top right-hand corner you want to write your name and your phone number in which the customer can contact you on into the sales representative section. The box to the left that says customer ID is where after it's all processed you will write down the claim number or the qualification number for that account so it could be tracked later and in the future. We're just going to go through the basic steps to fill out this order form so it's done correctly and so we could call that in and place that order with the main office. Obviously, the first line under customer information is self-explanatory. We're going to enter the customer's name. Make sure the name is the full legal name of the customer. So if the name is Thomas, you need to put Thomas down, not Tom. When we run the credit check, sometimes we have problems matching the social and the name if it's not the legal name of the customer or the name that's actually printed on their Social Security card. So after we enter the name, we move over to the phone number, area code first. And then we put a mobile phone or a work phone on the order as well. It's very important to get this phone number because if the tech rolls the job for installation and the customer's not home, if there's not an alternate number that he could call, the tech will just move on to his next job and there'll be no way to contact the customer for a second chance to get them to be there. I always get the mobile phone by just telling the customer, hey, we need a mobile phone number in which our technician can call you in the case that you're not home at the time of installation. Sometimes customers are kind of cautious giving this out, thinking they're going to be telemarketed or something like that. None of their information is shared. The address that we put down is the address in which we're going to be installing their satellite TV system. The city, the state, and the zip is also needed. The address on which the system is installed is always the address the bill will be sent, unless there's another address the customer prefer to provide. The next step is the Social Security number. This is where we start collecting personal or important information on the customer. Customers should always be concerned giving this information out. When I get the Social Security number, basically what I do is I just let the customer know up front, Mrs. Jones, we do run a minor credit check since we provide you with all the satellite equipment for free. That credit check is done with your social. I always call it a social and never use the word Social Security number. Using a more informal name to call it just kind of prevents setting off red flags in the customer's head. Mrs. Jones, we do run a minor credit check, and we do that with the social. Your social for the credit check? I then put the pen to the paper and look down at the form and wait for her response. If Mrs. Jones does not provide the social or provide some kind of concern for giving it, I immediately address that concern. Mrs. Jones, I understand that you will be concerned giving this information out, and you have to be careful. But DirecTV does use this information in order to make sure you are who you say you are. DirecTV will not activate any account without confirming the identity. If you prefer not to provide the number to me directly, you could provide it to a customer service rep over the phone when we process your order. And that's perfectly fine as well. Remember, we do not need to write their personal information on the phone. We just need to get it in order to process their account. Many customers will choose to provide it directly to the CSR, which is more than fine. The email address is very important. The email address is required for the customer to get an additional $5 off of their redemption, as we're going to talk about later in the sales training. So the email is required if the customer is going to take the full benefit of DirecTV. DirecTV does not spam them on this email. This email is not sold. The email is only used to send them updates based on their system and based on important aspects concerning their installation on their DirecTV account or the monthly changes to their program. The next thing on the form is the credit card. Always skip the credit card. Never ask for the credit card and the social back to back. Doing so, you're fighting two battles back to back and one you're surely going to lose. Skip the credit card and move down to the DirecTV equipment section. We're going to come back to the credit card later. In the DirecTV equipment section, you can see there's columns that move left to right, and these columns are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one of these columns represents an individual television in the customer's home. If Mrs. Jones has 3 TVs in her house, I'm going to circle 1, 2, and 3 at the top of the form in order to let the customer service rep know that there are 3 TVs being installed in this house. In the blank section right below receiver type, I always write the number of TVs as well, just to make sure that there's no confusion. In that blank spot there, on this case, I would write 3 TVs. If Mrs. Jones was getting a DVR and basic receivers, I would circle the R22 for the DVR receiver on number 1, and 2 D12s for TV 2 to 3. Carry the prices down to the bottom, to the line below. The DVR is $99. The D12s are free. So it'd say 99 under box number 1 and 0 and 0 under box 2 and 3. That number is carried all the way to the right and placed into the subtotal section on the right of the order form. If the customer is getting HD or getting DVR, they do not need to decline those services. If they are not getting one or either of those services, they need to initial the small initial section that says DVR decline or HD decline. This prevents the customer from changing their mind later on their equipment configuration and preventing anything from coming back to us as sales reps that we did not effectively let the customer know their options at the time of sale. Below that, it says a box that says extras. And here this goes through the extra little features that DirecTV offers that may be needed for the installation. These are rarely used, and so rarely they're always 0 when it's carried over. But I'm going to quickly describe which each one of these things are and when they'd be used. A pole mount is where the customer either A, would not want the dish mounted to the home, or cannot mount it to the home because of a tree or a line of sight issue. Using a pole mount, the installer will mount a pole to the ground somewhere on the customer's property using concrete and a fairly large metal pole. The dish is then mounted to this pole and the line is trenched to the home. This enables the customer to get DirecTV service without attaching the dish to the home itself. The next is a PhoneX, or a wireless phone system that allows the receiver to communicate with the phone line without physically being plugged into a phone jack. It's essentially a wireless phone system that allows that receiver to communicate with a jack that's on the other side of the room. While DirecTV wants every single receiver plugged into a phone line when necessary, it is not a requirement on DirecTV, so these are rarely used. If a phone jack is not used, but the customer would prefer the installer to run a new phone line to the outlet next to the receiver, that can be done for $20. A mirror is a way to split a feed. If a customer has 5 TVs in the house, but would never have 5 TVs going at the same time on different channels, we could split the feed off of TV 4 to TV 5. Those TVs would watch the same channel at the same time if they were ever on at the same time, but that would allow the customer to not have to pay for an additional receiver or a 5th monthly service charge. Mirrors are $25 paid one time to the technician that covers the additional time and the additional expense of running that line to that additional TV. Whenever fulfillment is used, meaning our own installers do not install the system directly, and the equipment is drop shipped to the customer, there is a $19.99 equipment delivery fee charged to their credit card by DirecTV. We can install DirecTV anywhere in the continental United States, Alaska, Puerto Rico, or Hawaii.